It is harvest time and we've been picking chilies now for a good few weeks. We have loads more to go. There's plenty still ripening up, but I thought, hey, why not show you around? We're gonna see some lovely chilies, but also I'll give you some tips on how to harvest chilies, what to look for, when to pick them, and also some ideas for what to do with them once you have them all picked. So let's get started. We'll go into Big Chump. As you can see, I've already made a start on things, but we've got plenty more to go. So these here are mostly chilies that I am harvesting for seeds, which is why you don't see as many in here. And I'm looking for very specific things. Oh, these are beautiful, by the way. These are pepper peach. I mean, look at the size of these things, little golf balls, but beautiful. I'm looking for certain things. You'll see, like for example, these chilies over here. These are my habanero fire. Now, I will not be using these for any sauces because you can see they've kind of gone over a little bit, but that's absolutely perfect for seeds. Take a look at this plant over here, and you can see that we have quite a few ripe chilies coming through. So let me bring you closer to this and you can have a look. You can see over here there are some green chilies which are definitely not ready to be picked unless you want to make a verde sauce, which isn't really great when you're doing that with super hots. But if we look down here, we can see some beautiful ripe ones. So that there is probably a perfect ripeness. It is firm, and yeah, that's what I would use for sauces. Now in here, I know we do have some others. So let's pick this because I'm going to be picking it anyway. So we have a look at this. And that there, I don't know if you can really tell, but it's quite soft to the touch. It's just gone over being ripe. I mean, honestly, it would probably be still okay for sauces, but I wouldn't like to risk it. But that there is going to be absolutely perfect for seeds. Now, when I'm picking for seeds, the reason I want them to be a little bit overripe is just to give them a much better chance of germination success. You will still be okay most of the time with chilies that are at a perfect ripeness and nice and firm if you want the seeds from them, but you're going to have a much better chance if you use these. So that plant, by the way, is a Nagamoric. It's a real classic and definitely suggest growing them. The plants can get pretty massive and the pods are just, well, they're very hot, but they're a good heat. They're not ridiculous, but yeah, ton of heat in them. So here I've picked a few. These are all from exactly the same plant. We can see here, obviously they start off green like most chilies. That's not all chilies. I'll show you some in a little while that are a little bit different. But they'll start off green, then they'll start moving off towards an orange, and then you'll get to that lovely red, which is a perfectly ripe chili. This one here, I would have no hesitation in using in my sauces. And then you go through to these phases over here, which are a lot darker. So you can see the comparison there. Let's see if I can hold all four. But there you go. You can see that progression from the orange to a nice bright red, and then going through to this darker red. So, I'm confusing myself here. So if we have a look here, this, yeah, of course it's a chili, so it's not going to be rock hard, but it's firm to the touch. Whereas this one here, you can see is, well, you can see how it's wrinkled up quite a lot more than this. So that there is definitely overripe. But like I said before, if you want seeds, that's what you want to aim for, where they start going a little bit soft. You can actually wait for it for quite a bit longer than that. Even if you want to let them dry on the plant, that's perfectly fine as well. Problem we have here in the UK, and I'm sure where you are as well, you might have this issue. If you leave them on the plant too long, especially when it starts getting a lot colder, you can risk them getting a bit moldy and actually going off. And once they start rotting, yeah, those seeds aren't going to be any good to you. The second tip I have for you is making sure that you time things right. Now, the Nagamoric is from the Capsicum chinense species of chilies, which typically will take a lot longer to ripen or get ripe fruits than other more common varieties like the jalapeno, which is part of the Capsicum annuum species of chilies, Piri Piri, which are Capsicum frutescens. So those species, the frutescens and the annuum, they are normally a shorter season plant, so you can get them to fruit down to even 60 days, but most of the time around about 90 days. capsicum chinense, however, the hots and super hots, they'll be about 120 days, and sometimes even longer. It really depends on the specific variety. So you got to plan ahead for that, depending on what you're wanting to do with your chilies. If you just want to freeze them and use them through the year, obviously it's no issue at all. Just pick them when they're ready. If you are trying to make a sauce, especially a fermented hot sauce, then you want to try and get them all to ripen at a similar time. However, there are ways to get around that, and I'll share that with you a little bit later in this video. But let's go take a look inside my polytunnel, ChilliChump, and let's have a look at some capsicum annuum and capsicum frutescens chilies, and you'll see there's plenty that are ready to be picked. The chilies in here, there's quite a few that have gone over, like some of these over here, but perfect for seeds, so I'm not too fussed about it. Some are getting close to ready to be picked, mostly my capsicum chinense or the super hots. And then we have things like my jalapeno, which we have quite a mix actually. We have some green on here as well as some overripe red ones. So a real mix here. An interesting one is this plant over here. This here is a Tabasco plant, and it is huge. It's a beast. But there are plenty of pods on here, and plenty are actually setting fruit still. We've got tiny little pods on here, as well as obviously plenty of these green ones. Now Tabasco, of course, ripens fully to red. So that's a lovely red ripe Tabasco. Now, the interesting thing about Tabasco plants, if obviously you know about Tabasco sauce, the way that they pick them is they have something called a baton rouge, which just means red stick. They compare the color on this little red stick to the color of the pods, and they'll pick it if it's, well, pretty much close to that. Because it can be quite difficult. You can see a lot of these chilies, there are red ones on here, some that are just turning, but for example, if I grab this one, that's definitely not ripe over there. You can see that that is more orange than red. Definitely not ready to be picked, and you're not going to get the most flavor out of it. And that just brings us down to tip 3. Why do you want to wait for it to go fully to the color that you're seeing over here if it is a red chili? The reason is because it would have developed the most amount of sugars at that point to allow you to have the most flavor within that chili. The heat level is pretty much set. I would say, I mean, in my experience, most of the time the heat level is pretty much where it needs to be, even at this stage, as long as it has started turning. Depends on the chili, but the flavor and the taste, the sweetness, that's really going to come through when these things are fully ripened. When they start going over, you're going to be losing a little bit of moisture from that chili, and also the flavors are going to start changing, and you don't want that, especially if you're making sauces. For me, the big thing is when the chili does start going over, even if I wasn't worried about the bacteria or any other like pathogens and that sort of thing, the big thing for me is that I'm going to be losing a lot of volume by letting them go too far. They'll start drying out, they'll start just not being as juicy and meaty as they could be, and you're wasting a lot of that harvest. So yeah, pick them at the right time. So I'm in amongst the bushes here. This is a Kashmiri mirch, and we can see there are plenty of beautiful ripe pods. And that's still nice and firm, so these are probably perfect for the picking today, and I will be picking them. The ones that are a little bit over, I'll be using those for seeds, and that'll make sure we have some lovely healthy seeds. But we can see here the Kashmiri mirch, it's an absolutely stunning plant, but very productive, and also plenty of pods. We can see there are some that are still green on there, so we'll leave those on there until they have fully ripened. We'll be taking a couple harvests from this. In fact, this specific plant I've already harvested from. I've got about 1/2 kilogram of chili pods from it. We're probably going to get another, probably 2, maybe even 3 kilograms off this one plant. And oh, these are just stunning. So that there is probably a little bit over, and we can feel it's a little bit soft, but still it could go both ways, sauce or seeds, and I wouldn't have a problem with it. But yeah, I've got plenty lovely chilies on there. Now while I'm down here, let's have a look at this plant, which is a capsicum chinense. Let me confirm what this plant actually is. I have a good guess, but let's check this out. Are we getting visited by Barney? Hey, my boy. Hello, my boy. You want to say hello to people? Come here, my puppies. Ah. Say hello, my boy. Hi. Yeah, he's coming and joining me inside the greenhouse in the polytunnel because it's nice and warm in here at the moment and it's pretty chilly outside. So, hello, my boy. Don't go and eat my chilies. Nothing like the pooch to distract you. I was busy scanning the label. So I'm using Seedsio to track all my plants. It's an application I built. Go and check it out if you do want to use it maybe next season. It's very, very useful. So this is a Wartrix. So the Wartrix, if you've if you've watched my recent live stream I did, I think it was my September live stream, I had one of the Warthogs, which is partly what the parentage is, one of these Wartrixes. That Warthog was insanely hot. It was ridiculous. Anyway, these are Wartrixes, and we can see there's plenty on here. There's some that have gone over. So what I was talking about before, if you let them go on too long, then you're going to end up with issues like this. And if we open this up without me getting this all over my fingers, you can see those seeds in there. That's not great, right? And you do not want to use it. I mean, some of those seeds might actually work, but it's not worth the risk. So don't let them go that far over. However, we can see like that one there has gone a bit soft. That one there is actually nice and firm. So a lot of these will be used for sauces. Oh, look at these beauties down there. It's lovely. The Wartrix, it's just a stunning, stunning chili, and it'll make some super hot sauce. So I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, I am going to be, again, picking all of these. The ones that have gone a little bit over, those will be used for seeds. Ones that haven't, I'll be using those for sauce. And I think we'll have probably a second harvest on these because there are quite a few that are still green, as you can see over here. But we'll be picking those a bit later on because, like I say, we have got another few more weeks for these things to continue ripening. I mentioned earlier that not all chilies start off green, and here's a great example of that. This is a Buena Mulata or Buena Mulata, and we can see there they actually start this beautiful dark purple, and they ripen through to an orange and then also right through to a red. This one seems to be mainly on the orange, actually, if I look here. But yeah, typically Buena Mulata will go through to a dark orange, almost red, but they start off this beautiful purple. And there's quite a few chilies that do that, that start off purple. Very interesting. This one here, trying to get into the shot, is the Malawan Picant or the Pepperdew, and they do start in green and they ripen off to a beautiful deep red. Lovely. So we've talked a little bit about timing for these chilies. We've talked about how long to wait depending on what you're going to use them for. Let's talk a little bit about the actual physical action of picking these chilies. Man, this has got to be the simplest thing I've ever shown, but it is useful, I promise. Some of the more difficult chilies to work with are the smaller chilies, especially when you're making hot sauce. Processing them can be a real pain, especially if you need to get the seeds out. But picking them can also be challenging. The bigger the chili, obviously, the fewer you need to pick. But when you have really small chilies like the Piri Piri or the Tabasco, for example, those take forever. Yesterday I was picking some of my CC Piri Piri, and each plant, I probably got about 1.5 kg, maybe 2 kgs of chilies off each plant. That took me about, I'd say about an hour for each. Now you can do it a lot quicker. You can just go and strip them off and there you go. But you're then gonna spend that extra hour, hour and a half when you're making sauces, and probably a lot more than that. So I'm gonna show you the way that I do it. Yes, it takes a little bit more time up front, but if you're making sauces with this, it makes things far, far easier. This gorgeous plant over here is my Mars Piri Piri. Absolutely love it. It has a whole big backstory. You can watch one of my videos. I'll try and link it up above where I talk about this a little bit more, but it's a beautiful chili. It looks fantastic and they taste phenomenal. Now, this is one of them that can be a bit challenging to pick very quickly. This is obviously a smaller plant. I've only got it in a 3-litre pot, so I don't expect a lot off it. But it's a good way to show you an example of how this works. Now, most people will go, they'll pick these chilies, they'll do this, and sure, we've got some chilies, but bit of a problem there. We have the stem on there. You do not want the stem on there when you are making your chili sauces. So first things first, make sure you get rid of those stems. Very easy enough to do that. Now, there's an even better way to do this, and you'll notice this on all my CC Piri Piri plants that I've been picking from lately. They all have these stems on the plant themselves because it just makes it a lot easier to pick, and it's a great indicator of whether that chili is ripe or not. So let me show you what I mean. When you are looking at a pod, so we'll look here at this. This is a lovely ripe chili right there. I can see the way it's growing. It's growing in a curve like that. So I'm going to go in the opposite direction and I'll pull it back on itself. And you'll see that it'll pop straight off the calyx. Now, if you have a green one, which is one there or there, if you try to do that, it's not going to work. It's going to pull off at the base. These should pop off very easily. If they are fully ripe, they're going to pop off very easily off the calyx. And you can see how quick this is. So that one there is not as ripe. That's why it takes a little bit more effort. You can see it's still ripening up over there. That one there. There we go. So that's all I'm doing. It ends up being very, very quick when you get used to this, but there you go. Now, what's awesome with that is I don't need to do any more processing. I'm going to give them a bit of a wash, of course, and then I'm going to use them in whatever sauce I'm going to be making. But there you have beautiful chilies that I don't have to mess around with the calyx, especially if you're going to freeze them. So let's talk about what to do with these chilies once you've picked them. Now, obviously, I make hot sauce, so yeah, I could go and I take these chilies straight inside, I start making my sauces, but that's not always an option, and maybe you don't want to make hot sauce. So how do you preserve these? This is a question I get so often. There are three main ways that I do it. Number one, the easiest way is to stick them in the freezer. Make sure you prepare them as if you're going to be taking them straight out the freezer and using them. So give them a wash, make sure they're nice and clean, get rid of the calyx, any leaf, any other debris that might be in there, get rid of that, put it in a nice Ziploc bag, stick it in the freezer, and it'll be good for many, many, many months. Frozen, you can use them straight in a dish, like a meal, blend it up inside your chili con carne or anything like that. Anything you don't need firm, crunchy chilies. You can even use frozen chilies with your fermented hot sauce. And I do have some videos down below where I'll talk about exactly that, using frozen chilies inside a fermented hot sauce. And I also have a video for how to use dried chilies, which is the next method. And I'll leave that down below as well. So that's your second method that I think is an excellent way to do it. It's the best way to do it if you want to save a ton of space and still have some beautiful chilies to last you years. So dried chilies will last you a lot longer than frozen chilies. A couple tips if you are going to be drying the chilies. If you're going to be drying them to keep the seeds, don't dry them at a very high heat. Anything above about, I wouldn't go above 40 degrees Celsius. If you're just keeping them for culinary use, then you can dry them at a much higher heat. However, I still wouldn't recommend it. You're going to maintain a better color and a better flavor if you dry it slower and longer. So consider things like sun-dried tomatoes, sun-dried chilies. They are always going to taste so much better than when you try and speed up that process and do it at a very high heat. So don't do that. Rather go at a lower heat, have a bit of patience, and you'll get a much better flavor and it'll last a lot longer. The third and possibly my favorite way of preserving chilies that you've just gone and harvested is by fermenting them. Now, there's a few benefits to this if you are going to ferment, and I have plenty of videos on my channel showing you how to ferment, and I'll be posting up a whole bunch more in the future. Number one is it preserves your chilies very nicely, and it allows you then to use them how you see fit in the future. It doesn't have to just be for hot sauce. You can use fermented chilies inside a meal as you would with the frozen chilies or with the dried chilies. It can be used to spice up a Bloody Mary if you want. I mean, there's so many different ways of using fermented chili mash. Now, the big benefit that I see, the biggest benefit and the most important one for me, besides preservation of this, is the flavor. It just tastes amazing. I find that it just takes away a lot of that green flavor that a lot of chilies will have. Some chilies, obviously, they are just tasty from the second you pick them. Things like the jalapeno, of course, and the cayenne, they just taste incredible no matter how you use them. But they actually taste fantastic too when you ferment them. But with chilies like capsicum chinense, so the super hots and the hots, they have a lot of heat, and that's generally why people like them so much, but flavor-wise, not always the best. When you ferment them, however, it elevates that flavor so, so much. The third benefit here is for those of you that maybe are selling sauces, you don't want to be making a whole big batch of 1,000 bottles of sauce all at once and then have them sitting on your shelf. with this way of doing it, you can keep that big batch of mash, which will be preserved for quite a few years. You'll be able to use that as a base in your sauce, make up the required number of bottles you need at a time, being able to make sauce throughout the year, even when you don't have fresh chilies. So it really helps with that. So those three methods, those are the ways that I do it. If you have any other ways that you like to do it, let me know down below. I know some of you like freeze drying. I haven't yet tried that, but if that's something you do, let me know down below. I'd love to hear what you do to preserve your chilies when you're harvesting as many as I am. Anyway, I think this video is long enough. I need to get back to harvesting before the sun goes down. I have so many to do, and I think I'll be doing it all weekend long as well, but yeah, I better get cracking again now. Thank you so much for watching this. I hope this was useful. If you have any questions, want any more details about this stuff, obviously I was sort of scratching the surface a little bit here, but hopefully some of these tips are going to help you out. If you do have any questions, let me know down below in the comments, and I'll be happy to respond when we get a chance. Until the next video, thank you so much for watching, and stay spicy. What you doing? You want to see the chickens? What's the chickens doing? That's not a chicken. Come on, let's go. Where's the chickens? Where's the chickens? There they are. Are they hiding? Where's it? Oh, there they are. Hello, little chicks. Is that the chicks? Hey, say hello. Don't frighten them. These guys are growing up so quickly.